put this together. This is a great space. I think we'll keep this rolling in this room. So Mrs. Drury, I think with our hookup and the rest of the moms who got the room ready and the food preparers and everything, I want to thank you. It's been great. I'd like to thank, first of all of you families, not only for spending your Sunday with us, but for the countless hours that you have invested in our program and your sons and the other boys that you help drive and pick up and get to practice. We just can't do it without your help. And I know Melissa and I, in our time here at Bexley, just feel so blessed to be around the kinds of people that you all are. It certainly makes my job that much easier. And the parents that you are, these young men, it's just outstanding. And we can't skip a day of being grateful and thankful for all that you do for them and for us. And I really, really, truly appreciate it. It was, again, we feel as a coaching staff a successful season. Certainly each coach is going to speak to his respective team, but we continue to build the culture that we want in our program and here at Bexley High School. And I think we've solidified that and created a system and a program that we are very proud of, and I hope that you are very proud of as well. We like to say that we don't have a basketball team, we have a basketball program. And, you know, even with Mr. Storer talking about our guys helping out the young kids and having that bridge down to those younger grades, to our 8th grade and our 7th grade teams, so on and so forth. We really feel like we've had the needle moving in the right direction year in and year out. And we all want more wins. I know we all want more wins, but certainly we feel very good about how we come out of this year. And for me, selfishly, just now I'm about to finish my 4th year with all these guys up here at the top table. You know, very, very special. And I will certainly speak to that and what they've meant to me and how they have helped me build something that we can say every night we're proud to see them play and how they conduct themselves. My coaches, Coach Gingery and Coach Leland, our freshman coaches, Coach Ball, certainly our JV coach, and then Coach Liptrap, my varsity assistant. You know, our companionship and our trust and faith in one another is so very special to me. You know, we have kind of found our way with one another now after 3 or 4 years, and I think we all kind of had the same ideas and ideals about what we want this to look like for your sons. And the amount of time that they put in for me is epic. The winter basketball season, as you well know, is a long, never-ending siege. And I just couldn't do my job without all that they do for me and your sons. They are, I will call them friends forever. And for me, I think that's more important than the basketball end of it. And I think your sons can see that with us at this table. And I think that helps our idea of family and the unit that we try to have as a basketball team. At this time, I'm going to introduce Coach Leland, who will talk about the freshman season. And we will, of course, call you guys up and get your awards. We'll then have Coach Ball speak to the JV season, and then I'll finish with our varsity program. So at this time, Coach Leland. As I've said many times in front of you all, that the JV is I think it's the toughest spot because of what Coach alluded to, and that is you've got multiple grades, you've got people shifting up and down, and I thought they handled it very well. I was concerned about them a little bit there in that midway point with how they were practicing, and they did turn it around, and it was really nice to see them end on that 5-2 streak that they had. I think that indicative of what they're capable of, and I think as they individually get more consistent with their play, they're going to have to, that will take great dividends for us going forward. I appreciate your patience with our program. I know we joke with all of you when we talk about this day about we tend to get long-winded a little bit, and I think it's one of the most important days that we have. I know for me, it's a very emotional day each year, and I think it's necessary that you families hear what we have to say about each of these guys, because we don't get to talk to you like that throughout the course of the year. They don't hear us talk to them like this throughout the course of the year, probably enough. And so I appreciate your patience. We feel it necessary to take our time and honor them the right way. And with that, I'll begin the varsity portion of the program. All summer and all off-season, you know, the question is in this town when you're a basketball coach, how you guys going to be next year? And my line was, I think we could be better and not win as many. We won 17 last year, but there were some things that we thought we could do, maybe challenge a little more in the league, advance in the tournament, so on and so forth. The early forecast for us as coaches is that we knew we had to replace Shannon Stanley's production. I don't think we knew what kind of an impact that had. And it became pretty obvious within the scrimmage season into the first portion of the season that we had to have some guys step up and really play well for us at both ends of the floor. I thought, I never talk about it too much. I think Coach Liptrap and I might a little bit early on, sometimes in the fall, talk about where can we get to in terms of the forecast. And I thought we could get to 15 or 16. We got to 14. We lost 2 buzzer beaters, one at Grove City and one at home against Whitehall. And that would have been the 16. And the Buckeye Valley game, we laid an egg. So, you know, we were about where I thought we would finish. I do know that our schedule was a little more difficult this year. And that's a fine edge, a double-edged sword. Adam Brandt wants us to play every Division I highly ranked team we can play. And he's also the first to commiserate with me sometimes when we take a tough loss. So it's a double-edged sword on we want to play good schools, but we did. It stepped up a little bit this year, adding St. Charles and some other schools that we had come in. So the experiment was keeping 11 dudes. And I think most of you know that I speak fairly honestly, and that was not the plan. 2 nights before tryouts, it wasn't the plan. And I did some pretty hard soul searching, and I drove these 4 guys crazy leading up to that day. And with their help and some rationale on why we could make it work, we chose to do something that I don't think has ever been done. I remember when we went to the opening tournament, Westerville Central's coach, Coach Martin, who I'm fairly friendly with, he came up to me and he goes, "What in the world are you doing keeping 11 seniors?" And that refrain was repeated a lot throughout the course of the year. I can't tell you how happy we all are that we chose to do what we did. And, you know, I don't know if it will ever be done again. And if some knucklehead like me tries to do it, it won't go well for him. It went well for us. And there were some hard conversations with some guys at that table about what their season was going to look like. And they didn't like hearing that. And I don't know where they found the courage, the ability to be selfless, to care more about each other, but they somehow lived into that in such a way that we were dumbfounded. I'm telling you right now, we couldn't believe how it went and how well behaved and how they emboldened us. We would not have won 14 games if we wouldn't have kept 14 or 11 seniors. I believe that. The juice that they brought, the love for one another that they have, it was just a huge, huge portion of our success. And I'm so thankful that we chose to do it that way. I remember Coach Liptrap saying a couple times throughout the course of the year after practice or after a game, he said, "I just can't believe we haven't had any trouble with this. I just can't." And I said, "Me neither." And I told Melissa, you don't keep seniors who aren't going to play. It's a bad recipe. Yes, coach, I'll be fine. I just want to be part of the team, coach. I'll be fine. And then you get 7, 8 games in, and you're sitting on the bench, and your ego kicks in. Not with these guys. It's a remarkable, remarkable thing. And I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. The early tournament was a good thing for us. I think we had some hits and misses. It was a strange year. We had more adversity this year than in the previous 3 years that we've been here. We missed a lot of man games with sickness and injury. Anthony's always hurt, and we have to manage and massage that. Ryan and his mysterious bouts of illness that happened a couple times. Damien's knee. And it just was a weird thing. We just had to, we would get hot and then we'd cool off. And we'd get hot and we'd cool off. And really, I think that was because we didn't practice. I think all of them would say this. We didn't practice as consistently this year as we typically had. I've stood here in the last few years and said, I think we had 2 bad practices. I think you've heard me say that. This year we had about 10 or 12 bad practices. And that might have been part of our inconsistent play at times. Not only in stretches, we'd win 5 in a row, then we'd lose 3 in a row. Or maybe just in the course of the game. We played a really good quarter and then we played a really bad quarter. And so it was a different kind of year in that regard. I do think that we lived into our grit moniker. I think we were tough-minded. We competed most nights throughout the course of the season. The highlight, certainly, I thought the Westerville Central game was really important for us to win. Ryan somehow threw that thing in at the end, but to beat a Division I team in a Division I gym, that was a big night for us. I still, to this day, am not sure I've ever been in a locker room that was as ramped up and ready to play as we were when we went to Grandview Heights. I think of all of the 120 some odd games I've coached in this building, or in that building, their faces in that pregame, we could have taken a nap, I think, and we still would have housed them like we did that night. We just couldn't get them to do that every night, and that's probably impossible, but I thought we could have tried to get there some nights, and we didn't, and that impacted, I think, some of the losses versus wins. The win streak after Buckeye Valley, I was really concerned about us coming out of Buckeye Valley. I told these guys this. I thought we were practicing like crap. I thought we were getting a little pouty. Long season, it's winter, and then we turned around, we ripped off 5 in a row, and we really didn't have any business ripping off 5 in a row. Ryan was sick, Damien hurt his knee, and we did. And I think the stretch with the Worthington Christian game, and then the Bloom Carroll game, and then the St. Charles game, those were really 3 big wins. And I think that we made some of the people in Central Hawk kind of step up and take notice at that time, and we were playing pretty good basketball. I thought we were doing better with practices and stuff getting towards the end of the season. The Worthington Christian game, we didn't play very well senior night, but we didn't play poorly necessarily. And I thought we played really well against Talmadge. They were just good. But I thought that we were doing the right kinds of things. We made the choice to take the bye in the tournament because of all the kind of the stuff that we've been going on. And we also told the kids this: we're going to win a game in the tournament. I'm going to get run out of here on a rail if we don't win a game in the tournament. And so that was our focus. Okay, we knew South was going to be that next spot, but we thought, hey, if we can get into the districts, have a home game, and do that, then we're going to do that. And that's how the bracket shook out. And I think really our Centennial game might have been the best we played outside of the Grandview Heights way over there. It was just, you go up and down the line, who played well? I remember Kate asked me, he always asked me, who do you think played well? I was like, well, he played well. He played well. We had a lot of guys play well that night. And it was a fun night, fun afternoon, I should say. But that was great to get them to experience the districts and what that means. I want to thank all of you. I was stunned the other night over at Westerville Central how many Bexley people came over for that game. Really, really happy and proud to be a part of that atmosphere. We'd like to have the first quarterback. But I was happy to get them to experience that district feel, and so we're pleased with that. At this time, I'm going to talk about the kids, and I didn't know how I was going to do this, in terms of, usually you just go by class. Well, how, So I'm just going to I decided just to do it in terms of like seniority. And so that's how I'm going to, in terms of varsity play. So that's how I'm going to do it. The first young man is just a terrifically gifted scorer, who's gotten much better at both ends of the floor. I know when he was in 8th grade, I was very concerned if he was ever going to let people coach him. And he has done that in the last couple of years. The best thing I can say about him is that he loves basketball. Loves it. And that seems like a silly thing, but it's important that you love the game you play. And he certainly does. He started with a bang. Just went unconscious at that Grove City tournament. And I think that it was a great thing for him to experience that, and it helped us be in position to win that second game. But I think it also raised his expectations to a level that he thought that was going to happen every night. And as a sophomore, playing your first year of varsity basketball, that's not how it goes, particularly when you have our schedule. You just got to keep going. I think there was a little lull that happens to sophomores playing up in the middle of the season for him, and then at the end of the season he kind of found his way again. And he played really well against Centennial, really well. But he's going to play a gigantic role next season for us. A gigantic role. Because he's only one of 2 dudes coming back. But I get to teach him in class as well, and he's just a sweet, great kid, Will Porter. What are you guys doing? Hey. Coach Liptrap says, Will's got to be the youngest coach in America who does absolutely nothing. You ever watch us get on the bus? Coach was carrying that med kit, right? He goes like, Will can't even carry a med kit. I do a great Coach Liptrap. Our other returning guard certainly is Damien, and what a gifted kid. I think this year was very frustrating for Damien on a lot of levels. He had such a great sophomore season last year. Led us in scoring. And I think he put a lot of pressure on himself early on. And I will also say that I think that he would never admit this because they're thick as thieves. But I think the blossoming of Nas also impacted him a little bit, particularly early on, where, he understood that, I might not be scoring 20 a game. I scored 13 last year. I gotta be scoring 18 as a junior, and that's a natural thought to have. So I think mentally he fought it just a little bit, and then he gets hurt, and that was a tough thing because he was just starting to kind of get it going a little bit. But he came out of that injury, and I know that's a psychological thing you have to deal with, and he did a really good job. And I thought down the stretch he played much better. Started making shots again. We've got to get him again to get back playing the defensive end as hard as he plays the offensive end. But I really expect him to be a go-to guy for us next year. I think he's an all-league player, and I feel very fortunate. He's going to have 3 full years with us, and next year we should get great things out of Damien Davis. Guys, if we mess these up, and we might, just after we're done, we'll make sure you get what you need. Okay? If you walk the hallways at Bexley High School, you could put everybody on a continuum on best person in the building down to someone who's not so great. And this kid, like, he stands on that dot at the best kid in the building, at that end of the continuum. I don't know, well, I know a lot of people know, but he's one of the most remarkable human beings I've ever met in my life. I'm not talking about guys I've taught or coached. I'm talking about this kid is solid gold. He's solid gold. It's just, he's a blessing to our entire environment. And he's done things in the building that are just remarkable. Bust up a fight when everybody's standing around clapping. He gets in there, you know, or I saw him pick up a book for this girl that dropped all her books. He picked it up. Who does this? You think everybody does. They don't. He was not happy with our very firm and honest words about keeping the 11 seniors. I could see it in his face. But he lived into it as well. Everybody loves him. And his infectiousness with his smile and his exuberance for life rubs off on guys when they're having a bad day. You know, you just, like, I'd be having a crappy day, and then you walk in and you see him smile, and you're like, well, what am I doing? It's just who he is. We got him a couple scores, you know, ran blue a couple times for him. He's so long, he got in there and scored. And then the 3 against Centennial the other day was great. Just great. Kate says, you never ever react when anybody scores. He goes, like, we make big shots, and you just stand there with your arms folded. He goes, but you didn't on that one. You didn't on that one, and that's true. He deserves everything that comes his way. He will have a place in my heart in this program for as long as he wants it. Jason Bell. This next senior has shown a level of maturity this season I thought was absent in past seasons. And I mean that both basketball-wise and socially and academically. He's another one with this great infectious smile and personality. And when I think of our bench this year, when Nas would make a triple, or Ant would take a charge, or Ryan would get an and one. When I think of our bench, I think of Isaiah. You know, Ohio State's got that kid Joey Lane, who some of you might know, who just, you know, Joey Lane at Ohio State won't let kids act selfishly on the bench. You know, you're going to buy in, and you're going to be happy and proud of what we do. And just watching Isaiah jump off the bench with his hands in the air, and you know, it means just as much as Nas scoring 21 points. And it's a hard thing to sell. And I'll be honest, Isaiah was one of the ones I was worried about whether or not he would be okay with that role. So the day we had the cuts and the tryouts and all that, and we brought all these guys in, and we said, okay, here's how it's going to be. And the way he looked when we told him that, there was absolutely no doubt in his mind, nor mine, when he said, he goes, I'm going to do all that I can for this basketball team. That's what I'll do. And he did. Not one. I didn't see one selfish act out of him all year long, and that speaks to that maturity that I'm talking about, that I think he's finally grown into. And so I'm grateful to him for that. He's been a huge part of our success, no doubt. Isaiah Drew. He might take the most crap from the rest of the guys. I think that's probably true. Our next senior is a kid who also had to swallow a lot of ego and pride, and I say this in all the right ways. He had to swallow a lot of ego and pride because I think of all the kids up there, he's probably got most of the ego and pride in him. And I mean that as a compliment. Every team should have a kid like Carter. Every team. He brings this sense of levity, and again, I mean this in such the right way as a compliment. I wish all kids would learn how to not take themselves so seriously. I really mean that. He's got like this just way about him that is unique and kind, and he's self-assured in a way that's refreshing and rare for teenage kids, and that rubs off too. You know, when I think about Jay and I think about Isaiah and Carter and all these guys I'm going to talk to, they all had like this little nugget of something that they brought to us that had to be present. It just had to be present. So if you take one little of that piece out, the experience isn't going to be the same. And Carter's so much like that. When he walks in a room, you know he's there. Because he's going to tell you that he's there. And basketball-wise, he was really important for us, albeit undersized. You know, he was the one guy, he's physically strong, and he's pretty quick, and he goes hard. And he was helpful because he wasn't just somebody we could push around in practice. And every day, he brought that. And that's hard to do. But I'm proud that he's been around for the 4 years. It's been a great ride with Carter and Bob. Aaron turned himself into a really solid, and serviceable player for us. I mean, really solid. You know, Aaron was not going to, obviously, because of guys that are ahead of him in the rotation, he wasn't going to play a whole lot of minutes, but never, ever did I have any qualms or lack of faith when I knew he was going to go into a game. You know, he's just steady. He's going to give you exactly what you want. Plays really hard out there. You know, he got thrown into the fray a couple times when Anthony was out and banged up, where he really did some positive things for us on the floor. For me, in being around these guys, probably the quietest of the 11, I'd say. You know, I can see Aaron sometimes just sitting back, whether it's at practice or on the bus or something, kind of observing the rest of them. And I've often wondered, like, yeah, that's going through my head too, Aaron. He's a dogged defender. He made some big clutch threes, and he got here by just having great work ethic and sheer will. Because he's no bigger in a minute. But he represented another spectrum for us, and that's just that level of consistency. When I talked about that earlier, he was consistent. Aaron was consistent all year long. He's a consistent kid, a great kid, and I owe a debt of gratitude for him on how he handled his role this year. He did a great job. Aaron Young. It happens every year on every team and at every banquet. The coaches are going to allude to it, and there's one kid that you just wish you could have done more for him. For me, that's Dane. Dane wanted more out of this year. I know it, and I'm talking personally. I know it. He knows I know it. His family knows it. You know, coming out of his junior season, there was some bright spots, and I think that Dane was the victim of some guys that just got better. And I think there were a couple rough patches for him, and I would go to him sometimes at practice and just ask him if he was okay. I did so very early, I remember. And he said, yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. And I thought in the middle of the season, there was a little bit of a rough patch again, and then he found a way to persevere through it. I think that his, of all the guys that I've already talked about, Dane probably had the toughest go because he got minutes in past. And this year those minutes didn't come his way as he would have liked. And I feel badly for that. But he was very much a good teammate to his brothers. And we did have to call him a few times, and he performed. I remember, I think it was the Grandview game. We were not playing well, and we put him in, and he stuck 2 big threes, one in the second quarter and one in the third, to kind of allow us to maintain contact on the scoreboard. And, you know, I've taught Dane as well. We spent a lot of time together. Of all the guys up there, he's probably taking more early morning shots than anybody with me. And I just want him to know that what you did this year was just as important as what anybody did this year. And I know sometimes that's a tough pill to swallow, but you've been a very, very important cog in this program for the last 4 years, and I'm proud of you. Dane Results. I'm proud of Zach with his growth as a young man. I'm proud of how he learned to be more selfless. Zach really became a good teammate this year. And I couldn't say that about him in years past, honestly. He really became a good teammate, and I think it helped him grow. He learned to work on his consistency. I think the coaches would attest to this. Many days in practice, he was our best player in practice. Dominant at times in practice. Coach Liptrap mentioned a couple times of how we do this defensive thing called shell drill, wide shell drill. Zach really got better at it as the year went on. Zach just sometimes couldn't get out of his own way. And you know, the score, there's always some kids. I think Zach's a little bit like this. I think he'd admit it. I think that's why he took our loss the other night so hard, probably harder than anybody. Is that when the scoreboard comes on, Zach can't sometimes just go play. It was one night he did. Anthony was out and we were playing KIP. And when you play these academy schools, I'm more nervous for those than when we play Grandview and Academy. We play these, you know, KIP academies and the Horizons. And Anthony was out and Zach just went nuts in the first quarter. Nuts. And I remember telling him, like, you know you can do that every night. And he said, I know. Like, knowing it and being able to do it is one thing. He showed some flashes this year where he was really, really helpful. And his benefit for us, really, I think, was just how he practiced. Because he really practiced great and gave us a look that we had to see a lot of times from an opponent that we can't do against one another because of our lack of size. I want you to continue on a path of good choice making. That's what I want you to do. And you've gotten closer. But I want you to take this experience and that feeling in your gut the other night when I had warm blue and continue on a path of good choice making. But you've been a real pleasure to be around. Okay? Zach Wells. Another senior that really turned himself like Aaron into a really solid performer when he was a sophomore, I was really, really worried about, and I think he was as well. I think we even had some conversations about where he was, and his confidence level had really taken a hit. And when I knew, I thought he flipped the switch was this past summer at our team camps and our places that we went to play. He was performing at a level that reminded me of his older brother, and that showed that he was going to be someone we could put in games and count on for some solid minutes. And he did that. Another kid who I think was on the fence a little bit, and then found a way to say, this is who I am, this is what I'm going to provide, and I'm going to be okay with that because the rest of the guys are too. And so Reed had, in my view, one of the biggest plays of the year, and some of you might not remember it, but it was when we were making that comeback on Bloom Carroll. And I think Nas got fouled and had a 1-and-1, and if we had chipped away, I think we had it down to like 8 maybe. And Nas gets fouled, I think, on a 1-and-1 and misses the front end of the 1-and-1, and Reed goes up. And on the film, it's great. Does exactly what we teach. He just got physical with the guy, went up high point of the ball, and just stuck it back in. And now it's 6. Now the room's going nuts. And I think I told Eric, I said, that was probably the biggest play of the game. And that's what we could count on with him. He really grew himself into a player that we could count on and was productive and solid. Reed Wagner. I want to also say that I'm really proud that because HUD, I love HUD, and now him, and then we got another one coming. This is awesome. This young man is a marker of what you can achieve if you just allow people in. Because me and Nas, for about 3 years, we just kind of held each other about right here. Right? And I don't know who it was, but it was one of you guys, I think. It might have been Adam. It was you. Adam said to me that one time this past summer, Henry and him were shooting in the gym, and Nas was in there. And I forget who Nas was telling, but he said something to the effect that, well, you can do this and you can do that, but if you don't let Coach Phillips coach you, you ain't playing. And Nas would not have said that as a freshman in summer. But we did. We held each other at an arm's length. And, I think we all saw what capabilities he had in him. I wish that he would have figured it out just a little bit earlier. But my, oh my. In the last 15 games this year, Nas scored 263 points for an average of 17.5 and made 48 threes. If you'd have, it was Independence when he took off. I put my arm around him at Buckeye Valley, I said, because he was great this past summer for us. Led, played well. And I put my arm around him at Buckeye Valley, I said, he was not playing well to that point. I said, you remember Summer Nas? He went, yeah. Summer Nas. And he was. And he was just, nobody knew who Nasir Tucker was in our league prior to that stretch. And he ends up being a second-team All-League and honorable mention in the district. I mean, he's going to play in the District 10 All-Star game. He's voted as our Offensive Player of the Year this year. I hope that he takes what he's done in this last 14, 16 months and applies it to everything that he does. And he'll be just fine. Nasir Tucker. Three more. There's just now 3, so we will wrap up very quickly once we're done with these 3 kids and we'll get you guys out of here. I appreciate again your patience. It's rare that you have a kid play constantly. He's always on the floor. And those who knew nothing about sports, or they only checked the box score, would never notice him. You know, you never notice him. We changed his role this year quite a bit. He didn't need to score for us, although we could have had him score maybe a little bit more, but that wasn't by design necessarily. But he's so smart in a way that's different from the other guys up there. We've got a lot of smart kids. But I truly believe that Leo might know more about how we guard than Coach Liptrap and I know about how we guard. I mean, he is a phenomenal defender. And the reason you don't know it is because he's never guarded the ball. But these guys will tell you, he saves their rear ends on nearly every possession. Because he's always in the right spot. He's talking, he's long, he's textbook great with his footwork. One of our most coveted films this year was the St. Charles victory, okay? Because those two big studs they had, I think they combined for 4 points. And everybody was like, I remember Randy Quartercracks from Hartley called me and goes, how did you guys only let them score 4 points? I said, watch number 32. Watch him. And that's just what he did for us all year long. And he was willing to do that and do the dirty work and the grunt work. And I will say this, as a freshman and sophomore, I didn't know he had that kind of grunt in him. But he was absolutely great. I'll miss his kindness. I'm going to miss his warmth. He's a very genuine human being. Leo, shout out. I don't want to, I got to be careful about this. I don't want to belittle Will to Nas. I don't want to do that. I've already spoken from Will to Nas. But there's something about Leo and Anthony and Ryan. You know, it just feels like, so I'm going to get emotional now. And if you're like, well, you didn't get emotional about my kid. Just something about those three. Just feel like we've been in the mud for a long time together. And I just want you all to know that. That's why I'm getting emotional. I've said all I can possibly say about Anthony. Whether it was up here last year or at his signing the other day. His love for the sport, and more so his love for playing sports with his buds, is just the best thing ever. The way he plays, it's something to behold. And the rest of these poor young guys, they're really going to be in a mess, because how do you get them to try to do that in the next few years? You know, I don't know if you can. He's just wired in such a way that is unlike anything I've ever seen. The training table in the room, I think they're sending it to the Smithsonian. I mean, he's in there all the time, yet he finds a way to battle. He's another one where box scores don't really matter. You know, he doesn't get the sexy stuff. You know, he made second team all MSL, but he was passed over for the district this year because he just does the stuff that we care, because we get to watch it. We've watched it the last 4 years. Two things about Ant that he called me this past fall before basketball, kind of going through it with the football program, and we went out to dinner and just sat down for about 2.5 hours and talked. And I'll cherish that night. And then what he's been to my boy. It's hard to coach your son. I haven't really had to yet. But just the gift that it is to have your son be around these kind of kids. Yes. I'll cherish it always. Anthony. obviously was awarded our Defensive Player of the Year award, and the most not surprising. And then Rod, special thing to be able to talk about a kid for 4 years. Doesn't happen very often. A kid plays freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior. I can't believe it's over. I can't believe. I remember that we decided to pull him up, and he wore his mask, and off he went. Just so consistent for us all the time. The vocal leader. I know sometimes our guys might even sometimes roll our eyes a little bit at Rod when he's doing his thing in our huddles, but it's what he does, and we follow him along. It's the first season, and I think where some adversity hit him a little bit with the sickness and illness. You think he was like the bionic man. When he got the first stretch of it, he called me, or we texted, I think, and I said, well, just stay home. He goes, Coach, I haven't missed a day of school ever. What? Kate asked me every Wednesday if he can miss it. Well, everybody else had impact. Here's the most unique thing I can say about Ryan. We usually went how Ryan went. Both good and bad. And I say that because he's okay with that. He owns that. We didn't win. Probably didn't play as well as I could play. And not all kids are like that. He just takes it on. Here's where we're going to go. I'll do what I can for you. And let's hope it works out. The Worthington Christian game, whether he was sick or not, just maybe the single best performance I've ever had a kid that's ever played for me. It was just an unbelievable, where he literally picked us up and said, we're going to go get this thing. And I'm very excited to watch Ant next year, certainly play football and continue his career. Wright State's getting a gem. And we won't be the same without these guys, all 11 of them. And Ryan has certainly spearheaded that in his time here. Ryan Kyle. I screwed this up a little bit. Ryan was voted as our team MVP. So give him a round of applause. Nas is our offensive player of the year. We'll get your class here in a second, guys. Anthony is our defensive player of the year. Nas also received our most improved player of the year award this year. I think that's well deserved. Two more. Leo Schottenstein received this year's Lion Life Award. Goes to somebody who exemplifies everything we're about on the floor and off. I think he's well deserving of that. Last year we had a Lion Loyalty Award. We've changed it this year. We went to Grant Hyman last year, the Lion Loyalty Award. This year we're just giving a Man of the Year award. Someone who is a person through and through and treats everybody up at that table and down here at this table like he's family, like their family. And so our Man of the Year this year is Jason Bell. Okay, to close, I've made this speech to our 7th grade team. I made this speech to our 8th grade team, and I'm going to say it to all of you. There's a thing going on at Bexley right now where if you're not in the top 5, you decide you don't want to play anymore. Not just in basketball, girls basketball, lacrosse, soccer, all. I'm in 7th, I'm in 8th, I'm in 9th grade, and I'm not the top dude. So I just think I'm going to step away because the coaches have already figured out who they're going to play by the time I'm a junior and a senior. Are you on your mind? If you want to play basketball at Bexley, play basketball at Bexley. Not because you're going to score 20 a game. That's my message. Just ask Carter and Isaiah and Jay Bell and Dana and Reed and Aaron and Nas. Ask them how they feel if they didn't stick with basketball. So if you are in this room and you weren't a top 5 guy, I want the idea and the verbal dialogue, the mental dialogue about, I'm going to do other things because I'm not a top 5 guy. Here should be your next thought. Do I want to play basketball? Then play basketball. Because I don't like where this is going. And I'm not just saying it for our sport. I'm seeing it. Josh Price dealing with it. There's value and worth outside of being the guy. And that's what we want, is people who understand that. And there's 11 of them right there that did. Because you know what? We aren't very talented. And to think that we won 31 games in the last 2 years speaks to guys who just want to play basketball. And so I want you boys to hear me when I say that. Because you all got some shoes to fill. And it's not always going to be a smooth ride. So, I want to thank, again, all the senior parents, all of your families that help do everything for us all year long. Moving forward, we will, we have a packet here as we usually put out, and the back of it is our calendar through June. The only date we don't know, we have one more freshman, that won't impact anybody in here, one more freshman event to add, but we will get, I have one for every family, so don't take more than that, please. And then lastly, I just want to thank my wife, Melissa, and Harper, and Katie. It's a lot of time in gyms this winter for us, with Harper playing too. And what a great thing to be able to take this ride together. I'm looking forward to what it looks like the next couple of years with Cater. And I just thank you so much for all that you three do for me when I am selfish and I'm in a hole and I'm worried about my guys more than I'm worried about you three. So with that, I'm going to turn over to Leo and the captains, I think, who want to say something quickly, and then we will dismiss. Thank you, everybody.
So we just want to thank our two varsity coaches. I want to thank Coach Liptrap. I mean, he has, I don't know, what, 300, 400 wins in his career at least. He really doesn't really need to be doing this here for assisting us, but I think he really does it because he just loves people. Every morning he sees me, he probably smiles the most out of any person I've ever seen. Always greets me the best out of anyone. Always positive, for the most part.
Fool him.
Thanks, Coach Liptrap, for everything.
I'd also like to thank Coach Phillips on everyone's behalf as a senior. He's just always there to support us. He's always taking us out to dinners. We're always bonding together and just having that fun experience with all 12 seniors, or 11, however many there are. I also want to thank you for keeping all of them. We've been a family for the longest time, and it's been a blast and experience. It's been one of the best moments of my life, so thank you.
They already talked about the coaches. I'll just thank them again for everything the last 4 years, but also I want to take this time to thank all the parents coming from the players. I know Coach thank all of you, but I don't think you guys realize how much it means to the players as well. The parents, what you guys do for us. It's been a great 4 years. It's been a great ride for my brothers. Definitely going to miss especially basketball. So thank you all. Look at the back.
Please
You all just talk about that line. We're just giving you, like, if you ever got bored in class, you could join.
Okay, I'll do that.
You can use it for the right plays or something.
All right, good. Thank you, everybody. With that, we're going to conclude. Nikki Welsh has asked, if at all possible, if you don't mind, some of you taking the chair, particularly you boys, taking the chairs and starting to wrap, and we do have to clean up the space, and we can help out in doing that. Thank you so much, everybody.